Om Sang Saraswati Namaha. Namaste. Namaste, everyone. On page 224, the fourth discussion. The businessman asked, Sir, do we have to renounce all worldly concerns? Ramakrishna, no, why should you renounce? You must cultivate a spiritual life within the world that you know. But from time to time you need to retire to a quiet, solitary place to call on God. You can make some arrangements to live near your home or go to your house and then return to your place of retreat. Once Keshav told me, Sir, we should live like King Janak of olden times. But I told him that it is very easy to speak of King Janak, but what did he do? Though he was a king, he spent a great deal of time in solitude and performed tremendous spiritual disciplines. He stood on his head for years while repeating the name of God. So first, do something, and then we will speak of living like King Janak. A poor village boy once learned to read and write in English and subsequently became very well educated. Could he achieve this all at once? He was a poor son of the village. He would cook at someone's house and then eat the leftovers. It was with great difficulty he educated himself, and now he can read and write fluently because he did that hard work. I also told Keshav that if a worldly man doesn't go into solitude from time to time, how can he cure the disease of worldly desire? It is like a man living in a room full of jars of pickled mangoes. Look, even the thought of pickled mangoes is making my mouth water. And all laughed. If the person with the disease of worldliness eats all the pickled mangoes, then his disease will only increase. So he must stop eating them and he must go to a place away from the pickles. If you remain continually in contact with objects and relationships of your desire, what will happen? The taste for desires has no end. For men, women, and wealth are the pickled mangoes. And that's Kamini and Kanchan. The taste for worldly desire is a disease that makes us beggars. So it is necessary to go to a solitary place away from objects of desire for some time and do spiritual practice. Then you can return to your environment and desires and attachments will not bind you. A time will come when you will be free from all attachments, just like King Janak. But at first you must be very careful. First you must retire into solitude and pray to God with a longing heart. When we plant a sapling of the peepal tree, we put a fence on all four sides so that goats and cows will not destroy the plant. But when the roots become very strong and the tree grows high, there is no need to protect it any longer. Then you could even tie an elephant to that tree and have no worry at all. If you do spiritual discipline in solitude, you will acquire true devotion to the lotus feet of God. Your strength will increase, then you can go to your home and interact with all the concerns of your world, and no desire or attachment will bind you. The practice of devotion is like churning cream into butter. The knowledge of God is the butter. You can take that butter and put it into the water of samsara, and it will float on the surface. But if the mind is not purified by devotion, it is like mixing the unchurned milk with water. The milk becomes diluted and is lost. Such a mind cannot remain unaffected by worldly attachments. Sri Ma says, maybe we need to call a swan at such a time. The swan is the only one that has the discrimination to take the milk and leave the water. From worldliness, we want to achieve godliness. With one hand, hold tightly to the lotus feet of God, and with the other, do the work of the world. When you have earned your holiday from the work in the world, then with both hands you can hold on to God's feet. Then once again you will remain in solitude, and you will only think of God and serve God. The businessman was very pleased and said, "This is a beautiful talk. I would like to do spiritual practice in a solitary place, but I forget to. Sometimes I think that all at once I will become King Janak." Sri Ramakrishna and the others laughed. "But when I hear that there is no great necessity to renounce the world and that I may stay home and find God, my mind becomes very peaceful and I feel very happy." Ramakrishna: "Why should you leave your home? Wherever you may be in time of war, you have to fight the battle. You have a battle with your senses, hunger, thirst. All these various desires have to be fought with. You can fight from within a worldly setting. In the Kali Yuga, one's life depends on food. If you have nothing to eat, your desire for God will dissolve." One person said to his mother, "Mother, I will renounce the world and become a sadhu." But his mother was very wise, and she said, "My son, why do you want to tour and wander all around the world? If you don't have to beg at 10 houses to fill your stomach, then go ahead. But why should you renounce? There is a great advantage to staying at home. There you will have regular meals, and if you become ill, there is someone to care for you." King Janak, Vedavyas, and Vashishta were all householders who lived in the world and still attained to God. They drew their swords and fought the battle. On one side was spiritual wisdom, and on the other, karma, activity in the world. The businessman: "But sir, how will I know when I have attained to spiritual wisdom?" Ramakrishna: "When you have achieved true wisdom, then you don't see God as far away from you. You know him as one with your true self. God resides in the hearts of all beings. You can see him in your own heart. He is within all, and whoever will sincerely search will find him." Businessman: "Sir, I am a sinner. How can I say that he is within me?" Ramakrishna: "Why do you people all talk so much about sin? I understand this is the Christian view. One man brought a Bible and I listened to a little of it. But I only heard that one word over and over. Sin and sin and sin. When you repeat the name of God, when you say the name of Hori or the name of Ram, leave off all this talk of sin. If you have faith in the greatness of the name of God, that is sufficient to chase away any sin." Businessman: "But sir, how does one attain such faith?" Ramakrishna: "You must learn to feel the presence of God. One of your own songs says, 'Oh God, is it necessary to do austerities and worship if I feel sincere love for you?' But who loves God for himself? Countless people cry to God because they have lost their health or their wealth, or because they have problems at home. But who cries to God just to know God? Who cries to God for himself?" The fifth discussion. Trailokya: "Sir, when do we have time for spiritual practice? We have to work for the English rulers." Ramakrishna: "If you turn over your responsibilities to a trustworthy person, he will manage everything correctly. So, with great faith, give all your responsibilities to God. Then, with no worries in your mind, just do whatever work he has assigned to you. Kittens do not worry about what is expected of them. They just cry out, meow, meow. Wherever the mother cat places the kittens, there they stay. They just cry, mew, mew. And when she puts them somewhere to sleep, they remain in that place and continue to call to their mother. The businessman, sir, we are householders. How long must we continue to perform our duties in the world? Ramakrishna, you have responsibilities, no doubt. You must care for your children until they are grown. You have to supply your wife with all her needs, her clothing, her ornaments. You would be called a heartless person if you didn't do so. Shukdev and other sages were all compassionate. One who is not compassionate is not a human being. Businessman, how long must one take care of one's children? Ramakrishna, until they have attained responsibility and are independent. When the little bird has grown big, the mother pushes it out of the nest. All laugh. Businessman, what is my responsibility to my wife? Ramakrishna, as long as you live, speak to her about spiritual matters and practice righteousness. Care for her needs as long as you live, and if she is faithful, arrange for her livelihood after your death. The case is different, however, if you become mad with love for God. Then you would have no further responsibilities. God would take your responsibilities. You would not have to think of tomorrow. When one becomes intoxicated with love of God, God himself will care for your family. If a wealthy landlord dies, the court will appoint a guardian to care for the estate and any minor children there may be. But these are legal matters. You know them all. Srima, better you should have a goal before you get married and live your lives with that sankalpa. Businessman, that is a wonderful statement. Those who contemplate God with one-pointed devotion become intoxicated with God and mad with love. Then God himself will take on their responsibilities. Of his own accord, all their responsibilities will fall to God. And when will this situation come about? Whoever attains such a position is very fortunate indeed. Trailokya, sir, as long as we are bound to this world of objects and relationships, is it ever possible to realize such a state of bliss? Can we ever attain God? Ramakrishna laughing, why not? You can sing do re mi. All laughed. If you keep your mind steadily focused on God, you will still have the world around you. It will continue to exist. Where would it go? What is the result of doing sadhana while still in the world? It is the same realization of God, liberation while living. Trilokya, what are the signs that a person living in the world has attained to God? Ramakrishna, your very body becomes alive with the name of God. Your body tingles when you hear the name of God, and tears fall from your eyes. As long as worldly thoughts remain, as long as you are filled with attachments and desires, your sense of the body will not leave you. You will always be thinking, I am the body. But to the degree that your worldly thoughts diminish, and there will be, to that degree you will search for the true wisdom of the soul, and there will be a corresponding reduction of your attachment to the body. When worldly thoughts completely vanish, the wisdom of the soul is attained. Then you will have discrimination and the understanding that the soul is very different from the body. Until all the water dries up in the green coconut, the meat does not separate from the shell. When the water is dried up, you can shake the coconut and hear that the kernel inside is separate from the shell outside. The description of one who has attained the highest degree of divine wisdom is that he had become like the kernel of the coconut, separate from the shell. His awareness of the shell, his attachment to the body completely vanishes. He is not concerned with the pleasures of the body, and he does not desire or pursue them. He conducts himself as a great renunciate, one who is liberated while living. Quoting from a text, the devotee of Kali is a jiva mukta and dwells in eternal bliss. When tears fall from your eyes while repeating the name of God, you may know that attachments and desires are coming to an end and God realization is not far off. If the matchstick is dry, one strike of the match will cause it to ignite. If it is wet, you may strike it 50 times and nothing will happen. You will just have to throw away the matches. If you are sitting in the midst of worldly thoughts, your matchsticks are wet. Your mind is saturated with the juice of desires and attachments, and you will not be able to ignite the divine within you. You may strike 1,000 times. It is just wasted effort. But as soon as the water of worldly thoughts dries up, your matchstick can ignite. When you know beyond a single doubt that she is your mother, it can happen immediately. She is not someone else's mother, she is ours. She is our own. You must call on her with great sincerity and great intensity. The child is pulling on the mother's cloth, asking for money to buy a kite. The mother is talking and gossiping with the other ladies. At first, the mother does not want to give any mind to the pleas of her child. She says, "No, your father has said that you cannot have a new kite. Maybe when he comes home we can talk about it. When you get a new kite, you run around out of control, so he said, no kite." But the child begins to cry and will not stop for anything, so the mother says to the other ladies, "Please wait a moment. I have to attend to this child." Then she takes out her keys and opens a box and gives her little child money to buy a kite. "Hey, Mom, did you hear that?" So, you must complain to your mother. Certainly she will give you what you want if you persist. I told this to a group of Sikh businessmen who once came to the Kali temple at Dakshineshwar. They were sitting in front of the temple, so I joined them. We sat down and began to talk. They said, "God is the manifestation of compassion." I said, "What kind of compassion do you mean?" And they said, "Why, sir, he always sees our needs and gives us what we need to live. He gives us the economic necessities by which we can live in this world. He feeds and clothes us." I answered, "What kind of compassion is that? If your own parent doesn't care for his own child, what then? Must the other people of the neighborhood do so?" A businessman said, "Then, sir, should we not feel that God is compassionate?" Ramakrishna, I didn't say that. I only mean that she is your very own. She is our very own. You can even force your demands on your mother. The sixth discussion. Egotism and the businessman. Ramakrishna to the businessman. If you are full of pride and worldly attachments, you cannot have spiritual wisdom. The worldly ego gives rise to tamas, spiritual darkness, and it is born from ignorance. Because of this self-centeredness, we are unable to see God. The various expressions of the worldly ego are worthless. The concepts, my body, my wealth, none of this will remain. Once a crazy person came and saw the clay image of the goddess that is made and worshipped for the few days of the Durga Puja. He saw how profusely she was decorated with silks and ornaments and said, "Hey, mother, you may like to wear all those fancy clothes and jewels now, but even so, they're going to take you to the Ganga in a couple of days and throw you in." All began to laugh. So I'm saying to you that whatever you may become in this life, it is only for a few days. Knowing this, one should renounce vanity and worldly desires. People have various characteristics which are determined by different mixtures of the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. Egotism, sleep, excessive eating, lust, anger, and so forth are the expressions of a preponderance of tamas. Those with a preponderance of rajas feel that they have much to accomplish in this world. They are very concerned with their apparel and personal appearance. Their home must be clean to an excessive degree. In the parlor and sitting room, there must be a picture of the Queen of England. When they pray to God and perform worship, they wear fancy silk cloth or sari, a rosary with alternating gold beads. If a guest comes to see their worship hall, they say, "Oh, there's so much more to see. Come and see this and come and see that." Their altar is made of marble and is very elaborately decorated. They make liberal gifts and donations to charity in order to show others the extent of their devotion. People with a preponderance of sattva are very peaceful. They wear whatever clothing is convenient and available. They work only enough to support their simple needs and lifestyle. They prefer to remain independent by not accepting gifts or loans from others. There is nothing extravagant or for show in their home. They do not dwell continually on what their children must become in life in order to uphold the family name. They are not concerned about their personal status or social position. They spend all their time in contemplation of God. Their meditation and devotions are done in private with no show or display. If they make charitable gifts, they do so out of the public view. They meditate in their room in the early morning. When others see them later, they suppose they hadn't slept well that night, and so were late in rising. Sattva is the last step on the stairway to the roof. The next step is the roof. When one has become sattvic to this degree, you can know that he is very near to having the vision of God. If he goes only a little further, he will find God. To the businessman, you Brahmos believe that everyone is equal, but now you can see that there are many varieties of human nature. And there are others as well. There are very special few who are called nitya siddhas, eternally free. They are never caught in the net of this world. There are also those who have struggled hard and attained liberation. And of course, there are those who are bound to the world. Sages like Narad and Sukdev are the Nitya Siddhas, the eternally free. They are like a large steamboat that can carry many human beings or even elephants across the river. trying to become liberated are like fish who have been caught in a net and are being dragged to shore. With great earnestness and determination, they struggle to free themselves, and a few among these are able to leap over the net and become free. The bound souls are bound by their desires to this world, this samsara. Their consciousness is not clear, and they have no ideal beyond the pleasures of the world. They are caught in the net, and they do not even know of their danger, so they do not try to escape. If they happen to come upon someone speaking of God or someone repeating God's name, they run away. They feel that they have more important things to do. They say, I will repeat the name of God at the time of death. Why should I spend time doing it now? I have many duties to attend to. But when the hour of their death does arrive, rather than thinking of God, they say to their children, turn down the flame in those lamps, you're burning too much oil. The children and wife are standing nearby weeping, and the dying man can only think, what will happen to them when I am gone? Bound souls suffer greatly in their lives. They are like the camel which eats the leaves of the thorn tree. Even though its mouth is cut and bleeding from the thorns, it continues eating from the tree. In this world, everyone is suffering. Not a single home is without grief. One man has lost his child to death, and yet he continues to have more children every year. He gives his daughter in marriage, and it nearly bankrupts him, and there are more daughters on the way. He says, what can I do? It is just my fate. If the family goes on a pilgrimage to a holy place, he has no time to contemplate God. He is constantly busy watching that the children behave respectfully and to see that nothing is lost. When they reach the temple, proud of his family and worldly success, he makes large donations to the temple deity, flaunting his wealth in order to impress others. In this way, time passed and his life draws to its close. Bound souls are servants to their own stomachs and to the needs of their families. They are not servants of truth. They are reduced to acquiring life's necessities by any means. Others contemplate God and become intoxicated with the love of God in their spiritual practices. Bound souls look at them and say, they are crazy people. To the businessman, so look at how many kinds of human natures there are. You say that all are equal, but some have more of the divine power and some less. At the time of death, bound souls cannot remember to repeat the name of God. With attachment and desire for the objects of relationships of the world, on their deathbed they speak only of the world. They may have done some japa in their life and had a bath in the Ganga and gone to a place of pilgrimage, but what of that? These were only formalities. At the time of their death, their selfish attachments and desires will allow them to think only of this world. They cannot remember God. A parrot can very easily learn to repeat the name of Ram or Krishna, but when the cat catches it by the throat, it forgets the holy name and can only squawk. In the Gita, it says that what we are thinking at the time of death will determine our next life. Bharat, a great king, had become attached to a pet deer. And he could only remember his pet deer as he left his life. So, he took birth as a deer. If you are able to contemplate God at the time of leaving your body, you will go to God. You won't have to return to this world again. A Brahmo devotee. Do you mean to say, sir, that even if we have meditated on God during our lifetime, that if at the time of dying we are unable to do so, we will have to come back to this world of pain again? Why don't we get credit for the times when we did contemplate God? Ramakrishna, no doubt that in your life you think of God. Many individuals think about God, but they don't have full faith, so they forget. They become bound to this world again by selfish desire. It is like when you give a bath to an elephant. After the bath, the elephant at once lies down in the mud again. The mind also loves to lie in the mud of this world. But if you can tie the elephant in a clean place, it won't become muddy again. Those who can think of God at the time of their death have purified their mind. Selfish desires do not arise in such a mind. If you do not have a burning faith in God, then you will have to enjoy the fruits of many different kinds of experience. People say when you take a bath in the Ganga, all your sins are washed away. But in fact, they merely fly up like crows into the trees that grow along the bank of the river and wait. Then, when you have completed bathing and come back to the shore, all your sins fly back down to you again. All laugh. When you leave your body, you should remember God. But you must prepare for that moment in advance. The way to do so is to practice. If you practice thinking of God your whole life, you will surely remember him even at the time of death. A Brahmo devotee, your words are very beautiful, sir. You have said many wonderful things. Ramakrishna, oh, these are just mere words. But do you know my inner feeling? I am the tool, and she is the craftsman. I am the house, and she is the resident. I am the car, and she is the driver. I am the machine, and she is the mechanic. Just as she guides me, just so do I move. She alone causes me to act, and so do I act. Jemni chelao, temni chele. Shakli Tumaricha. The seventh discussion, Ramakrishna singing in bliss. Trilokya sang again, accompanied by drums and cymbals. Sri Ramakrishna danced, intoxicated with God's love. While he was dancing, he went into samadhi several times. He was even in the state of samadhi while standing. His body was completely still. His eyes were steady, and his mouth was smiling. He was standing with one hand on the shoulder of a beloved devotee. Coming out from samadhi again, he danced like a mad elephant. When he regained his outer consciousness, he improvised words to the music. Ramakrishna sang. Mother, dance around the gathering of devotees. While you dance, O Mother, make them dance. I repeat, O Mother, dance at least once in the lotus of my heart. Dance, O the energy of the Supreme Divinity, with your world-bewitching beauty. What an indescribable scene! The divine child, intoxicated with love, was dancing with his heart given to the mother. The Brahmo devotees dancing around him were attracted like pieces of iron by a magnet. Chanting the names of the Supreme Divinity again and again, the names of the Divine Mother, they were filled with bliss. Many wept like children crying, "Mother, Mother." After the singing ended, they all sat down. The group's evening worship had not yet been performed. Suddenly, all the rules had been forgotten in the bliss of singing the divine names. It had been arranged that Bijoy Goswami would sit on the dais that night. The time was nearly 8 o'clock in the evening. All were seated, including Sri Ramakrishna. Bijoy was in front. Bijoy's mother-in-law, grandmother, and other female devotees wanted to see Ramakrishna and talk with him. They sent a message to him. He went into a room to meet them. After some time, he returned and told Bijoy, "What love of God does your mother-in-law have? She says there is no need to tell you about the world. A wave goes and another follows." I said, "What's that to you? You have acquired wisdom." Your mother-in-law replied, "What wisdom have I got? I have not yet gone beyond Vidya Maya and Avidya Maya." It is not enough just to go beyond Avidya Maya. One has to go beyond Vidya Maya as well. Then only will true knowledge dawn. Don't you yourself say that? So let's explain for a moment. Vidya Maya is the knowledge, the Maya, the illusion of knowledge. And Avidya Maya is the illusion of ignorance. And now Bijoy's mother-in-law says you got to cross them both. It's not just enough to leave the Maya of ignorance behind. You've got to leave the Maya of knowledge behind too. Because if you think I know, you don't know. While this conversation was in progress, the respected Beni made his appearance. Beni to Bijoy, "Sir, now please get up. It has already become very late. Please begin the worship." Bijoy, "Sir, what is the necessity for more worship? In your place, the dessert is served first and then comes the main course." Sri Ramakrishna laughing, "Devotees make arrangements according to their own capacities. The Sattvic devotees will offer rice pudding. The Rajasic devotees will offer 50 dishes to the deity. The tamasic devotees will offer sacrifices of goats and other things." The eighth discussion. Thakur, that's named for Ramakrishna, Thakur gives advice to Bijoy when he lectures in the Brahmo Samaj on the duties of the teacher, reminding him that God alone is the guru. Bijoy was contemplating whether or not he would conduct worship on the dais. Bijoy, "If you accept, I will teach from the dais." Sri Ramakrishna, "If you have no ego, then it will be accomplished. It will be fine if you don't have any superior attitude like, I am lecturing while you are the listener. Is ego the product of wisdom or ignorance? Who is free from ego has wisdom. Rainwater drains off from a high place and collects in a low place. As long as a man has ego, he does not have wisdom or freedom. He has to come back to manifested existence again and again. The calf bellows, "Hamba, hamba, I. That is why it suffers so much. It is slaughtered by the butcher, then shoes are made out of its hide. The hide is also used to make drums, which are struck frequently by sticks. There is no end to its misery. Finally, the entrails are made into the strings of a carding machine. When the strings of the carding machine sing the sound of tuhum, tuhum, you, then comes relief." It no longer says I, it says you. It means, oh God, you are the doer, I am not. You are the craftsman, I am the tool. You alone are everything. The words guru, father, master, trick me like thorns. I am his son, I am always a child. How can I be a father? God is the doer, I am not. He is the craftsman, I am the tool. If somebody addresses me as guru, I say, get away, you scoundrel. How can I be a guru? There is no other guru except Satchitananda, truth, consciousness, and bliss. There is no other guru except Satchitananda, truth, consciousness, and bliss. There is no other refuge but him. He alone is the ferryman who takes us across the ocean of worldly existence to be joy. It is very difficult to act as a teacher. It causes harm. Finding that even a small group of people respect him, he crosses his legs and says, I will talk and you people will listen. This is a very bad attitude. That is all it takes. Just a little respect, and then people will say, be joy, Babu spelled very well. The man is so wise. I pray that she does not make me wise in this way. I say, Mother, you are the craftsman, I am the tool. Just as you cause me to do, just so I perform. Just as you make me speak, just so I speak. Be joy, humble. If you give me your permission, I will sit on the dais. Sri Ramakrishna laughing. What shall I say? The moon is the uncle of all the children. You ask him. If you are sincere, there is nothing to be afraid of. Requested again by Vijay, Sri Ramakrishna said, go and complete the system of worship. If there is sincere love for him, it will be all right. Vijay then sat on the dais and performed the worship in accordance with the rules of the Brahmo Samaj. During the worship, Vijay called, Mother, Mother, again and again, which melted the minds of all. After the worship was completed, arrangements were made for feeding the devotees. The mats and carpets were removed, and plates made of leaves were placed on the floor. All the devotees took their seats. Ramakrishna also sat down and was offered luchis, kachuri, papadan, and various sweets prepared by Beni, along with yogurt, dahi, sweet rice pudding, and other offerings which were made during the worship. With great bliss they partook of the consecrated food. And now comes the ninth discussion. After realization of the highest wisdom, there is no distinction between Mother, Kali, and Brahman. After dinner, they chewed on pan with betel nuts. They all made preparations for returning home. Before leaving, Sri Ramakrishna engaged in a conversation with Vijay. M was also present. Sri Ramakrishna, you prayed to God addressing him as mother. This is excellent. It is said that a mother's attraction for the child is stronger than the father's. One can apply pressure on the mother, but not on the father. Once they were taking wagon loads of money from the estate of Trilokya's mother, accompanied by many guards wearing red turbans and armed with sticks. Trilokya had been waiting on the road with his people and snatched all the money away by force. One can apply a great deal of force when it is about his own mother's wealth. They say that it is not so easy for a mother to make a case against her son. If Brahman is mother, is it in that case with form or without form? Sri Ramakrishna, that which is Brahman is also Kali, the mother of the energy. When it is inactive, it is called Brahman. When it creates, preserves, and transforms and performs all these actions, we call it Shakti, or energy. Still water is an example of Shakti, or Kali. Still water is an example of Brahman. Water, when it is moving, is an example of Shakti, or Kali. What does Kali mean? She who communes with Mahakal, Brahman, is Kali. Kali has form, and she is also without form. If you believe in formless divinity, meditate on Kali as that. If you meditate on any particular form with stillness, she will let you know what she is. If you reach Shampukur, you will also be familiar with Telipara. In other words, you have to cross Telipara in order to reach Shampukur. So you cross over, and when you cross, you will be familiar with that locality. Then you will realize that God is not just pure existence. He will come near you and talk to you, just as I am talking to you. Have faith and everything will come to you. Another thing, if you believe that God is formless, believe it with firmness. But do not be dogmatic. Never say that he can be only this and not that. Say, I believe he is formless and that he can also be so many things. He only knows what he is. I do not understand. Can the nature of God be understood by the ounce of intelligence that man has? Can a pot which holds 2 quarts of milk contain a gallon? Only if he reveals himself to his devotee and makes him understand from his grace, then alone one can know. Otherwise, one cannot know. That which is Brahman is also energy, and that, again, is the Divine Mother. Ram Prasad, gone? Prasad says, the truth is who I regard as mother. Should I reveal this secret in the marketplace? O mind, grasp it from the hints I have dropped. Shampukur and Telipara are neighboring places. Who I regard as truth, that is, it is me who conceives the truth. It is that truth that I address as mother. Again, Ram Prasad says the same thing. Knowing the secret that Kali is Brahman, I have given up both Dharma and Adharma, the ideal of perfection and its opposite. Adharma means actions contrary to the ideal. Dharma means actions that bring us to perfection. As examples, one should give to charity, one should feed the learned. These are righteous acts of Dharma. Bijoy, what remains when both Dharma and Adharma are given up? Sri Ramakrishna, the pure love of God. I said to Mother, Mother, here is your righteousness and here is your unrighteousness. Please take them both. Please give me pure love. Here is your knowledge and here is your ignorance. Take them both. Please give me pure love. You see, I did not even ask for knowledge. I did not ask for public recognition either. When you renounce both Dharma and Adharma, what remains is pure love, pure, desireless, unselfish love. Shuddh, pavitra, chirasthai, vyakulata, ananya bhakti. A Brahmo devotee, are they different, he and his energy? Sri Ramakrishna, upon the attainment of full knowledge, one realizes their unity, just as the jewel and its luster are not different from each other. If one thinks of the luster of a jewel, one cannot but think of the jewel. Again, it is like milk and its whiteness. You have to think of the other as soon as you think of the first one. But this knowledge of non-duality does not arise before the realization of true wisdom. Samadhi is attained upon the realization of true wisdom. One goes beyond the 24 principles. Therefore, there is no longer the principle of ego. Let's pause here for a moment and see if there are any questions. Yes, please.
Swamiji, there's a discussion about avidya maya and vidya maya.
Yes.
Maya, one view of Maya is that it's the false identification with objects and relationships in the world.
Good.
And
the illusion which obscures the reality.
In this case, what are the objects and relationships that distinguish avidya maya from vidya maya?
Avidya maya is my own opinion, which turns out not to be the true fact. Vidya maya is my attachment to the true fact. Both create bonds of attachment, both bind the soul. But avidya maya binds the soul to an incorrect understanding. Vidya maya binds the soul to a correct understanding. And this is the distinction between the two. Are there other questions?
Question from Nanda from San Jose.
Namaste, Nandama.
Pranam Mind Swamiji, please forgive this basic question. Is it sufficient for an ordinary person to lead a decent, law-abiding life? Why does one need to seek God? Thank you.
Because if you don't seek God, you won't find her. And if you don't find her, you will have wasted your time. It's so difficult to get a human birth. It's so much more difficult to get a human birth in a family of Brahmins, of knowers of God. It's even more difficult to get a human birth in a family of knowers and lovers of God, and yourself be infused with the love of God and the desire to find and live with that divinity. So please don't waste the opportunity. Take every opportunity that you can and search for God and fill your life and your environment with godliness more and more. Yes, please.
How does one then navigate through the shoals of that experience? I know intellectually I want to know God. Sometimes I don't feel the desire to do the sadhana. Sometimes I get bored. Sometimes I don't feel the results. And I just say, I'd rather watch TV. How does one get through that feeling?
It's my sankalpa. And if I'm true to my vow, then I assume that you're going to be true to your vow. If I'm not true to my vow, how can I hold you responsible for fulfilling your vow? So therefore, I'm going to do my part, whether I like it or not. It's my vow. It's the definition of the correct behavior that I want to perform while I have this human body. Now, it's incumbent upon me to perform. I'll watch TV later, after I fulfill the vow.
Question from Parvati from Sacramento.
Namaste, Parvati Ma.
Pranam and Namaste. Is thinking of one's guru at the time of death the same as thinking of God? Is there special help that a guru will give a disciple at the time of transition?
Yes, the guru will definitely help us transition. But remember what Ramakrishna just said. The guru is Sat Chit Ananda. Sat Chit Ananda is the guru. The only function of little gurus like these are to bring you to the big guru of Sat Chit Ananda.
Question from Usha from Canada.
Namaste Usha, Namaste Neil.
Most people are apparently unconscious when they pass on, whereas the great souls seem to die consciously. In the past, I have chanted mantra in the ear of dying persons, even though I knew that it would not mean anything to their conscious mind. What is the right thing to do for a person leaving this world?
Just what you did, Usha. Absolutely chant mantra into the ear as they transition. In their mind, they will not understand or be able to contemplate the meaning of your words, but their soul understands. That mantra attaches itself to the soul as it departs from the body. And let them go with mantra with the best wishes, the best energies, the best intentions of all their loving friends. You did the right thing, and I pray that you continue to do it.
Question from Nilima from New Delhi.
Namaste, Nilima. Namaste, Sanjay.
This refers to pages 198 and 199.
Yes?
Sri Ramakrishna leaves the room when Narendra starts singing and much later expresses that it was a mistake. Why did he say so? Is there a lesson in that for others?
Yes, there is. When Narendra sings, when Srima sings Narendra's song, do you want to be in another room gossiping about worldly affairs with someone else? That was a mistake. Let's enjoy the fullness of the satsang to the extent of our capability. Not let's get up and move into the other room where we have a tendency to wander into worldliness.
Swamiji, there's a follow-up question from Parvati.
Yes.
She's asking which mantra would be recommended to help someone pass on.
Oh, there are so many choices. Primarily, you could use the Gayatri mantra, which is the most efficient, and then you can use the Trambakam mantra.
Question from Nanda. By doing sadhana and attaining control over ourselves, will it not cause our egos to increase and pride in our attainment? Instead, the great rishis say, you are the doer, I am the instrument. How do they not let their sadhana impact their egos?
Oh, the sadhana is designed to dissolve the ego, Nanda, not to enhance the ego. We're chanting the mantras, and the mantras say, mantrayate. It takes away my mind. It doesn't fill my mind with thoughts of, look how devoted I am, look how religious I am, I'm fulfilling my sankalpa. No, it says, look how much I need, how much more I need to do. So I can be here present with you as I recite the mantra. I want to remember the mantra. I want to remember the meaning of the mantra. I want to be in your presence. What a privilege it is for me to be in your presence. Not what a privilege it is for me to be able to show anybody who's looking how devoted I am or I can appear to be. That is not sadhana, Nandama. The sadhana is what a privilege to be in your presence.
Question from Eric from Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Namaste, Eric.
Namaste, Mind Swamiji. Has Sri Ramakrishna ever reincarnated?
Yes. Next question.
Swamiji, question from Nilima. This is regarding one who has many siddhis cannot see God. Swamiji, but what about Hanuman, who had many powers to change his form? Or was it that he was Shiva himself?
He was God. What need of he, and even as he was God and he was a devotee of God, and even so he wanted to see God and serve God. It wasn't that because he wasn't using his siddhis to show others. He was using his siddhis to serve God. And that was the greatest of the attainments, the humility of a devotee. No matter how great was his siddhi, no matter how great was his attainment, he maintained the humility of a devotee and said, it's all the grace of Ram and Sita.
Question from Kumari from Valley Hill.
Namaste, Kumari Ma.
Ramakrishna says that we can receive 1,000 teachings. but until the time is right, they will bear no fruit. How can a devotee make himself or herself ready to receive the fruit of the teachings?
Try to make yourself into a disciple. The biggest challenge for us is to make ourselves to be a disciple. The proverb in Bengali says, Guru hoche lak lak, shisha hoche ek. There you can find hundreds and thousands of gurus, but to find one disciple is extremely rare. Make yourself into the disciple. Sit the way your example sits. Worship in the form that your example performs. Sing with the joy, with the bhav, with the presence of your example. And slowly, slowly over time, become the perfect reflection of the perfect example. That is known as a shish. Om Sam Saraswati Namaha. Namaste.